According to Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan's new book, Regime Change, the insiders, the White House advisors, the staffers, everybody working around Donald Trump knows that his health is failing. And they're pretty open about it to the reporters who wrote the book, which honestly is a little weird considering the fact that this administration has spent so much time and energy telling us that he is the healthiest person to ever live. And then, of course, you get in a room alone with a reporter, and those very same people are like, oh yeah, this guy is not doing well at all. He seems old, and we all see that he is falling apart. More in just a moment, but first, a quick word from today's video sponsor. One of the easiest ways to keep people misinformed is not by hiding the story completely. It's by keeping the story visible while shifting everyone's attention to the least important part of it. You can see that in this Virginia congressional map case now heading to the Supreme Court. Some outlets are covering the actual issue, whether a voter-approved redistricting plan can be restored. Others are making the story about spelling mistakes in the filing like that's somehow the real thing people should care about. Same event, same facts, but a completely different sense of what matters and what doesn't. That's why I recommend Ground News. It's a website and app that pulls together reporting from across the political spectrum so you can compare headlines side by side, see the bias distribution of the coverage, check the factual ratings of the sources, and even see who owns the outlets behind the reporting. What I like about it is that it helps you catch when coverage is being used to distract instead of inform. You can see which outlets are focusing on the substance, which ones are pushing a narrative, and which ones are steering people away from the real issue entirely. Ground News also has a blind spot feed which highlights stories that are being underreported by one side of the political spectrum. That's especially useful if you want to know not just how a story is being covered, but which stories your usual media bubble may be skipping altogether. You can also personalize your feed by interest so it's easier to keep up with issues you actually care about. So go to ground.news/Farron or scan my QR code. Using my link gets you 40% off the Ground News Vantage plan, and you can also gift a subscription directly through Ground News. I see Ground News as one of the best ways to consume news, and I definitely recommend checking it out. So according to the new book, Regime Change, they wrote, quote, "Those who spent time with him could see the signs, the moments of fatigue, the cupped hand behind the ear." Here's what's funny about that. They also point out that aides told them, and then of course they witnessed firsthand, that Donald Trump is losing his hearing. He can't hear people talking to him and frequently has to have them repeat themselves louder so that he can hear them. They also tell of a story where he was meeting with world leaders and he insisted on doing it in the Oval Office because, one, there's better acoustics and he can hear better, and two, he didn't want to stand up. He wanted to be able to remain seated because, as I've pointed out for months and months now, the man cannot stay on his feet for extended periods of time. Now, it gets a little more interesting too. According to the book, Trump was upset about the press coverage of his cankles and demanded that his press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, address it during one of her media briefings. Some of his aides thought it was an odd topic for the White House to formally address, and yet it was in keeping with the president's obsession with his appearance. So, when everybody saw his cankles for the first time, right? Socks looked like they were ripping at the seams because they were stretching so much. He was so mad that he actually had Caroline Leavitt, who is getting paid with our tax dollars. So on the taxpayer's dime, the administration was forced to go out there and lie about what is happening inside of his body. Gets even weirder. His longtime aide and personal valet, Walt Nauta, carried around makeup, hairspray, Tic Tacs, a clothes steamer, and scissors so that Trump could trim his own hair when it got too long in the back and poked over his collar. Now, I would think that a guy like Donald Trump would have no problem getting in to get a haircut, right? Price is not an issue. And if you were to call Supercuts and say, hey, the president of the United States needs a quick trim, can you get him in right now? I'm willing to bet they're going to say yes. But Trump wanted to cut his own hair because that's what wealthy, powerful people do, I guess. Whatever, but okay. Also carrying around the makeup. Now, it's unclear if this makeup that Walt Nauta is carrying around is for Donald Trump's face or for the back of his hands, but of course they did also mention the president has tried to cover the bruising on his hands with makeup, which of course we all know that's not a new revelation from the book. But it also strongly implies that Donald Trump does his own makeup, which would explain why the coverage on his hands is so horrible and why he has the dark orange outline around his face, because he just gets to a certain point and stops. This is a guy who literally half-asses everything. Like, he can't even get a proper haircut. He can't hire somebody to do his makeup. He half-asses it himself, just like he did with the reflecting pool, just like he's done with his foreign policy. Everything is half-assed. But the most important takeaway from this is that his aides know how sick he is. Walt Nauta knows it. That's why he's carrying around those things. Caroline Leavitt knows it because she's forced to go out there and lie about it, but she seems to enjoy doing that. And of course, the other aides who spoke to Haberman and Swan also acknowledge that this man is not well, and they don't even know if he's going to make it to the end of this term. Thanks for watching, and if you are not already subscribed to the channel, please do so, and do not forget to like and comment and share widely among your friends.